I'm addicted to espresso ASMR machine videos. There's just something about these fine moving machines and like matte finishes that makes me want to grab my wallet and just throw it at the person selling them. But when you look at the prices, they're kind of untenable. Even some of the budget options are expensive and they're not great. Like that's not what I want. I want that, not this. Okay, doesn't matter. I guess I'll go on to my next hobby. I want to get into, let's see, how much sim rig setups cost. Oh my god. Okay, how about some good camera bodies? Oh, come on! Why do I always gravitate towards the most expensive hobbies? Even in so-called budget build videos, the price tags are wild. More than most people I know can actually afford. There's always someone in the comments saying, wait, this is the budget version? Or, wait, I can't afford this. I know that feeling. When even the entry-level gear feels out of reach. When a trade, a craft, or an art form just seems like it's behind a paywall. So how do people afford this stuff? I bought a bunch of stuff. Come with me and let's see how I was able to afford all the stuff that I bought while still reaching my savings goals. Okay, let's talk about the problems I had. Or rather the things that I needed to upgrade. My desk. I feel as though sitting for prolonged periods of time was bad for my health. And I still do. So I decided to purchase a standing desk. Second, an air purifier. I own a dog and a small apartment. A golden retriever to be exact. And the hair accumulation can get out of hand quickly. A 3D printer. I missed having a 3D printer. I missed designing models on CAD and felt like I needed those things back more than ever. But while I was eyeing all this gear, I also had savings goals I needed to hit by the end of the year. Why yearly? Because I think by the month ignores the big picture. Picture this. When you budget by month, it's easy to fall into short-term thinking. I can't afford that this month, so I will never be able to afford it. That mindset stops people from making smart, long-term investments in themselves, especially for hobbies, trades, or projects they care deeply about. I honestly think that looking at your budget by the month is just as short-sighted as impulse buying the products right off the bat in the first place. So do I recommend the stuff that I bought? Maybe. That really depends on you, your work, your habits, and your situation. What I can say is this though. I didn't buy anything lightly. I spent countless hours researching exactly what I personally needed and not what was trending. This video isn't about the gear though. It's about how to afford big purchases, ones that might help you or might not, but doing it in a way that doesn't wreck your financial life. Here's how I did it. I set some rules before I bought anything. Rule number 1. The product had to be necessary for my setup, at least to some reasonable extent. It had to pass a reliability test. That means no cheap junk, but also no overpriced features I'd never use. Rule number 3, no credit cards. I use credit for essentials only. Groceries, gas, and rent. Everything else is cash or debit. So if there's something you want to invest in, gear, tools, furniture, whatever, look at the year, not just the month, I think. And ask yourself, what do I need? How can I afford it without screwing myself later? That's what this video is about. So let's get into it. For my standing desk, I went with the FLEXISPOT EN1, an electric height adjustable model that cost me $269.99 Canadian. Add $13.5 in GST, that's the federal goods and services taxes for all you American viewers, and $18.9 in PST, because you know, British Columbia, and total came to about $302.39 Canadian. Now that might sound like a lot for a desk, but believe it or not, that is the budget option. Most well-known standing desk brands are pushing the $1,000 mark. I chose this model because it hit the sweet spot, the exact size I needed, and this was important to me. The tabletop was a single solid piece, no seam running down the middle like a lot of the cheaper ones. Yes, it's laminate, yes, it's basic, but it gave me what I needed for the price I was willing to pay. I'm not a desk enthusiast, I'm not even sure a person like that exists, but I just needed something that works. Bottom line, I wanted something reliable, simple, and cheap. I paid for it in cash on Amazon on April 27th, and it showed up 6 days later on May 3rd. Respectable timing for a bulky delivery. Shout out to FedEx. For my air purifier, I went with a popular brand. LEVOIT? LEVOIT?
LEVOIT.
LEVOIT. The base price was $165.59. Add $8.33 GST and $11.67 PST. And the grand total came to be $186.69. Now, full transparency, I said I wouldn't use credit cards or loans in this video, but this one's a bit of a gray zone. I used the buy now, pay later option. These are the payment plans you now see at checkouts on almost every online store. No interest, no fees, just the full amount split into 4 payments. The first one is usually a bit higher, like a down payment to start the transaction. This was actually my first time ever using buy now, pay later model, like ever. And I did it on purpose for the sake of this video. I wanted to test it out on a lower priced item and see how it really worked. And yeah, it works. It works really well. Almost too well. At checkout on Amazon, some items show a buy now, pay later link right below the price. Click it and you'll usually get 2 options. A traditional financing plan with an APR between 10 to 30%. A definite hard pass, by the way. Or a short-term payment plan, 4 or 6 weeks with 0% interest. And the latter is your buy now, pay later option. I went with a 0% plan and read the fine print. Yes, I'm one of those people. As long as you make your payments on time, it's truly interest-free. But if you miss a payment, interest and penalties do kick in. Now, I consider myself financially responsible, so I felt comfortable testing it. But this is where it gets tricky. The system works too well. It's smooth, seamless, and honestly a little seductive. I can see how it might tempt people to spend more than they should, especially if they start relying on it. So I gave it a trial run, knowing full well it's a tool, not a crutch. And I'll be very cautious moving forward. And finally, the 3D printer. Now this one's different, because unlike the desk or the air purifier, I actually care about 3D printers. Or at least I used to. Back in 2018.
Out of options. Woke up this morning in my feelings, and I was like, I gotta let them out.
When 3D printers were still clunky, expensive, borderline experimental. I was one of the first people to grab a Prusa Mark I. I loved that thing. Tinkering with it, prototyping my designs, watching an idea turn into something tangible in a few hours. It made me excited about tech again. And back then, printing without tinkering just wasn't an option. The tech was still in its awkward teenage years. Fast forward to now, and the scene has changed. A lot. After 5 years away from 3D printing, I looked back in and was shocked.
Damn!
Today's printers are reliable, enclosed, easy to use, multi-material, and most importantly, cheap.
Damn!
My original Prusa cost me about $1,200 Canadian when I bought it first in 2018. Now for a fraction of that, I can get something nearly plug and play, like fridge level reliability and toaster like simplicity. So I dove in. Weeks of research later, I had it narrowed down to 2 contenders. The ANYCUBIC Kobra 2, comboed with the AMS system for 605.51 cents, discounted from 753.42, of course. Or the Bamboo Lab A1, plus the AMS, obviously, for $629 Canadian, discounted from $719. Now, I knew which one was the better printer. I have watched countless videos. I knew exactly what to buy. The Bamboo Lab printer is sleeker, easier to use, better supported, more polished. It is everything the other printer wishes it was. So naturally, I went with the ANYCUBIC Kobra 2. Let me explain. I've grown tired of markets dominated by one or two giants. Companies that make a few great products, build trust, then choke out competition and milk the market dry for the next decade. I've watched that cycle repeat in tech, tools, entertainment, you name it. Bamboo Lab is the better product today, but they weren't there a decade ago. They didn't lay the groundwork for the hobby. They just showed up, disrupted, and took over. And honestly, I didn't want to feed into that. Didn't want one player dominating the 3D printing space. Just being in the sim racing market is a testament to how good consumers can have it if there is a little bit more competition between sellers and manufacturers. At the end of the day, you want gladiator companies that stood the test of time and competition offering you services. Not kings born into royalty, lording over consumers with their inflated prices, bundled services, high cell phone plans, poor consumer protections, closed ecosystems, planned obsolescence, shady material sourcing, and a slew of other counter consumer practices that would make Air Canada blush. Really, Air Canada? Carry-ons are no longer included in the price of the ticket? I digress. Anyways, I went with ANYCUBIC. It's not perfect. It's less polished. Their customer service, let's just say it exists. But they're scrappy. And they're improving. And I want to give the underdog a shot. I paid in cash on May 8th. The total came to $630.5 Canadian. Including in that is 5% GST, 7% PST. Since it's shipped from a US warehouse, the rest was customs and import fees. Last I heard, it's expected to arrive in early June. I know, not great, but they are having inventory challenges, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. All right, now for the final part. How do you actually budget for relatively expensive purchases? My system is simple. It starts with an Excel spreadsheet.
What is this? It's Microsoft Excel.
Now, full disclosure, the spreadsheet I use cost me about $50 Canadian, but you don't have to spend anything. The version I use came from a YouTube channel that also offers a free full 6-hour tutorial on how to build it from scratch. You don't have to pay anything, just follow the steps in the video, and you should have a working spreadsheet that's fully automated and capable of all the features that I have on this spreadsheet right now. That said, you don't need this exact spreadsheet. All you really need is a budget that works annually or even monthly, or a sheet of paper and pen, honestly, if you roll like that. If you go the monthly route, just make 12 copies, one for each month, and update them anytime you expect a new expense, income shift, or major change. If you want to start free, I highly recommend checking out Vertex 42. They've got some excellent templates. I actually used them back in the day before I had this one. But the reason I stick with the page sheet now is because it's automated, seamless, and fits my workflow perfectly. I am not sponsored or paid to say this. I just genuinely love the product. In fact, I like it so much, I built this Excel sheet myself using the tutorial the first time around, and then years later, when I got a new laptop, I went back and bought it just to support the creators. Let me quickly walk you through how my spreadsheet is set up. It's divided into 3 sheets: budget, tracking, and analysis. The first sheet, budget, is where you lay out your plan for the year or years to come. It's divided into 3 main sections: income, expenses, and savings. Each section uses expandable tables, so you can easily add custom categories. For example, under expenses, you have categories like rent, groceries, gas, you name it. For income, I track both my opening salary and raises or adjustments throughout the year. The savings section includes all my checking and savings accounts, as well as every investment or trading platform I use. Meticulously organized so I can see exactly where my money sits at any given moment. The second sheet, tracking, is where I log real activity, any actual purchases, paychecks, unexpected expenses, or contributions to savings. It all goes here. This lets me compare what I plan to spend with what I actually spent. Remember, budget sheet is what you plan on spending. The tracking sheet tracks whether you've actually followed the budget. And the third sheet, analysis, is where the magic happens.
Now hold still, I'm about to perform a miracle.
Breaks everything down month by month, using a simple drop-down menu to toggle between different periods. This helps me spot patterns, identify averages, and keep an eye on how my habits shift throughout the year. It sounds like a lot, but once it's all set up, it's a super powerful tool. Now that you know the basics, I think you're starting to see what I'm getting at. A spreadsheet like this, even though I paid $50 for mine, has saved me hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars over the years. And it'll keep saving me money. You've probably heard the saying, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. Well, it turns out Grandpa was right. But here's the thing. Savings only matter when you track them. You need a metric, something to measure against. And what better to visualize your spending than seeing the yearly cost of something like a Netflix subscription staring you in the face? Trust me, when you start thinking in annual numbers, it changes the way you see money. And if you make this a habit, your future self will thank you. Now, like I said, this isn't just about saving. This is also about spending intentionally. Once you plug your numbers into the sheet, take a step back. What do you see? What could you afford if you stopped ordering takeouts every fucking day? What's Uber Eats really costing you? Not just in money, but in missed opportunities. Maybe you could have finally bought that CNC milling machine for your shop. Maybe your boutique store could have had a full interior makeover if you hadn't gone for the overpriced crossover / SUV that drinks gas like it's happy hour. I really hope people stick around long enough to hear this part, because none of this should be gatekept. I honestly believe everything I've talked about today should have been taught in high school. You'll never catch me selling a course or putting this kind of knowledge behind a paywall. That's a baseline promise for this channel. If this helps even one person, then it was worth it. And this video did its job. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. If you found this helpful or learned something new, give it a like, subscribe, drop a comment. It really helps with the algorithm. See you in the next one. Peace.